oh yeah, we'll invest 250,000. Send me all the stuff. Let's do it. Confirmed, verbal commitment. And then they ghost me. I mean, it's like the craziest. It's been a crazy journey.
Welcome to another episode of Higher Learning. I am your host, Rashid. This is the show where we learn from executive and founders about what they uniquely see that others don't when it comes to identifying top talent, and some other fun topics and stories from the leaders who are changing companies and industries. If this is your first episode, welcome. Tell your friends. Make it a listening party. I'll bring the pizza. To our longtime listeners, thank you for your continued support. We are on Apple, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Quick asks. You do our team a great service by subscribing and rating the show highly, so smash those buttons. Do it now. We'll wait. All right, let's get into it. Today, we have a very special guest. I promised her I wouldn't introduce her this way, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is my favorite guest. We are joined by Nikki Sanz, founder and CEO of Gigs. Nikki, how you doing?
So good. And this is my favorite podcast. So let's go.
Wow. What synergy we got going here. Now, I always want to check in on the energy levels. You're feeling good. You're ready to have a great discussion?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This has been a
you strike me as somebody we could wake up at 2 a.m. and you'd be ready to go.
Oh, yeah. I think it's what the road prepared me for. Absolutely.
You're ready. Let's talk about it. I want to dig in. All right. You are relatively new to your entrepreneurial journey. Your company Gigs has been around, I think, 2.5 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. Tell us what Gigs does. And if you had to select one moment that kind of led to you starting your own company, maybe that inflection point, tell me what that would be.
Yeah, definitely. And again, thank you for having me on this. This is fun.
Of course.
So I moved to Nashville 6.5 years ago with the full intention to get on a concert tour. I worked a Dolly Parton show back in North Carolina where I'm from, and it just hit me up. I want to be on one of those buses. How do I become a part of the production of the show? So I moved here, and in the touring industry specifically, but all of live events is all word of mouth in order to get these jobs. So you just have to meet the right people. So I moved here. I started working at a recording studio. I started working for Live Nation at different venues around Nashville, the Rhyme and Bridgestone. I was working corporate events, sporting, TV and film, like anything I could just to keep getting my next gig, until I finally got on the road with Eric Church. Was my first tour on the road. And I was working as a production assistant. Well, actually, the first job I had was with the caterer. I was doing decorating and stocking all of the dressing rooms backstage. And then I was also the backstage bartender for any of the VIP guests that came through. And I had no idea what I was doing, but you learn on the job. And it is a 6 a.m. to 4 a.m. job, sleep for an hour, do it again, sleep for an hour, get to the next city. So I've learned how to work well with no sleep. So I was touring for a while. I loved it, all the while gigging other live events. And after the pandemic, I went back out on the road and I realized this wasn't for me anymore. I just didn't want to tour. So I was staffing tours and live events as I was figuring out my next move. And that's when it hit me of, oh my gosh, it is so hard to keep getting my next gig, but now staffing to get the right people is even more impossible because it's all word of mouth. So we're posting on Facebook, we're just texting, hey, do you know of anyone else that can do this? I mean, it became really desperate because we had 25% of our workforce left after the pandemic. So I had this moment in 2022 of, we need a LinkedIn for us. We need a professional network where we can host our profile, all of our gig work, because none of us are on LinkedIn, because you're not going to get the job working for Beyonce backstage on LinkedIn. That's very specialized.
I've been going about this the wrong way the entire time. That was my entire strategy. I got to go find another
I know,
Go
right?
ahead.
We're just waiting on Beyonce to start posting those jobs. So on Gigs, you're able to post that job for Beyonce backstage because you're going to get that right person, because everyone in Gigs is vetted. A place for employers to post jobs, search the database securely, and a place for professionals to network and connect for the first time.
Oh, a lot there.
Yeah.
All right, so interesting. I'm just had a conversation with my chief of staff, and I told her, what I've realized over time is that there's zero correlation between intelligence and wealth and success. Really, the biggest correlation I see of people that ultimately have a lot of financial success is, what are you willing to do? And so you, being in North Carolina, being in a concert, decided I'm picking up my life. I'm moving to Nashville. I'm taking a lower level job just to get into the industry. I'm going to go tour and work these long hours and do what others will not. And now you're at this point where you've opened up your own company. You found a problem, you solved it. I find that amazing. I got to ask one thing
Mm,
before we keep diving in.
mm.
What is something about being on tour like that somebody like myself wouldn't know? Like, what would surprise me?
Huh. Oh man. And yes, that is the way to start on the road, because first of all, if you don't know what the road is like until you actually start. So you do start with the hospitality jobs, which is decorating the dressing room, stocking it, catering, and merch. So those are kind of the entryways, and those jobs are kind of the worst because you have the longest hours, the most physical labor. But it's a great way to suss out, is this person really in it for the love of the industry and the job, and are they willing to do these worse jobs to climb up the ladder? So that's definitely you know the whole mission of the industry too. You have to start. You got to start at the bottom. And what was your question? I'm sorry. Oh, something that would surprise you?
Yeah.
Huh. I think you'd be shocked to know that. Let's just take an Eric Church show. Or let's say the Eagles. They have an arena tour. They sell out most arenas. You would be shocked that hundreds and hundreds of people work that show. Hundreds are backstage. So there might be 100 people on the tour actually in buses. I was on a tour that had roughly 100 people. We had 12 buses and 25 trucks. So all the trucks are carrying all the production equipment, the stage, lighting, audio, everything. We come into a completely empty arena and we build everything. And then we literally tear it down as soon as everyone leaves, and we're out to the next city the next day to do the same thing. So not only is you have the 100 people that you're touring with in every city, but then you have the hundreds that come that are called, we call them stagehands, that come that are locals to that city, that arena, come in and they help push the cases, unpack the cases, lift, put everything together. And then you also have the hundreds that are working in the venue themselves, doing concessions, security, ticket taking, VIP, all of it. Like, when you just go see an artist that you like, you don't realize how many people are a part of that one performance.
You learned a lot over this past 2 years, because when you started and you got in the business, you saw a problem, you wanted to solve it. There's got to be a lot you've gone through, bad and good. I'm interested for prospective entrepreneurs who are considering making that leap, right? And I think more and more I'm seeing more and more people moving into this, no pun intended, gig economy,
Totally.
or this economy where they're creating and they're building for themselves. What would you tell somebody that's like thinking about jumping into being an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. Had I known what this would be before I did it, I would have never done it. I am so glad that I did. I don't think any entrepreneur really knows what all it takes. And so I think the piece of advice, the first one is, you have to love the idea. If you don't resonate with it in some way, if there's no passion there, if you're just doing it because you see some need that could be filled, you are going to be miserable. I am still miserable all the time, and I love this idea. I am passionate about it. I've worked both sides of it. I believe in it like no other, and it is still so hard. Like, you are going to bed with it. You are waking up with it. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is your identity. So if it's not something that you feel so passionate about, do not do it. Wait until the right idea comes to you, because it's definitely not worth it if you don't like the idea.
Yeah, I hope I'm attributing this right, but I think it was Jensen Huang, who is multi-billionaire, obviously, at this point with NVIDIA. And somebody asked him a similar question about advice for entrepreneurs, and he said the exact same thing.
Wow, yeah.
Don't do it. What an incredible dichotomy of like having unbelievable fame, success, all the things and wealth that people want. And yet the first advice is don't do it, because us who are in it, we know the heartache, the grit, the stomach churning, the
Right.
lonely nights, the sadness. Like, there's just a ton that comes with this that I don't think people fully understand. I think that's fantastic
Wow.
advice. You
Do
better
you, do
be
you
all
feel the
in.
same way? Like, what kept you
100%.
going?
Mm. So I was like you. I found a problem. I became obsessed with solving it.
Yeah.
And, I got to be honest. I look back now at the beginning of the journey, and we weren't making any money. I was eating cheesy cheeseburgers because that's all I could afford. I had a wife and a kid, and I wasn't sure like how long I was going to be able to do this. But I really felt like this industry, the hiring industry, needed to be really different. And so like it kind of kept me going. But I'm looking back and like there was a lot of like, a lot more initial success than I think a lot of people initially go through. Like the company did a pretty good the first year, and then we started dumping. So that was tough. I'm going back through it now with software. For some crazy reason, I decided to go into a completely different, not industry because I'm working in the same vertical, but like in a software is very different than the services business I built at MSH. And I'm going through all the same, like questioning myself. What am I doing? Where's my money going? What am I sleepless? Am I doing this right? Are people going to see this the same way I do? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a masochist. I'm a glutton for punishment. But I am in love with the idea and making a big change. That's what keeps me going.
That's it. Yeah. I do think that serial entrepreneurs are a glutton for punishment because y'all are crazy. Whenever I'm talking to someone who's like, yeah, we just exited and I'm looking to start my next thing, I'm like, what is wrong with you? But maybe that's because I'm only 2.5 years in and we just started generating revenue in June. So, I'm still, once we break even and get that feeling, I understand there are certain milestones that make it all worth it.
I mean, listen, this podcast is in 43 different countries, I believe. I mean, you're going to be right after this podcast, you're going to be taking off. The revenue is going to be going through the roof.
You rock.
Let's talk about the branding aspect. You told me you weren't big on social media, but that it's been a big game changer for your company. Walk me through the process to get more comfortable and like, what has it done for your company?
Absolutely. And I didn't study this, I think you can agree. I don't think anything that we are doing, we really could have learned.
There's no playbook.
Yeah. That was kind of something my dad told me at the beginning. He goes, hey, if this fails, which it's not, but if it fails, you're going to get your MBA, which I feel like I am. So anyways, I never learned, branding, how to put a whole brand guide together, any of that. I just kind of went with what felt good, got a lot of feedback. Social media is not my strong suit and I really dislike it. I would delete it all if I could, which hurt me actually. In the early days, I wouldn't post much about it. I didn't want to be like that cringy person being like, look at me. That's not my personality. So, it all changed when I started posting on social media. It all changed a year in when I started sharing the journey and sharing certain things of, hey, we just had this focus group. I just won this pitch competition. And oh my gosh, what people love that. It started getting more followers and more followers. Okay, let's put out more content that our people would like. Oh my gosh. As soon as we launched the podcast, the Gigs podcast in the summer of this year, oh my gosh, it's changed everything. Our engagement we're at like 200,000 impressions a month. We're already up to like over 12,000 followers, which literally just a few months ago, we were under 8, I want to say. We post every single day, and Instagram algorithm, as soon as you just post every single day a reel, you're going to get to an insane amount of people. So that's the whole reason for putting the podcast out is we did want more content. We wanted more education. We also wanted to kind of educate our members that we have. We have now over 16,000 members. We wanted to have, let's interview the top in the business. How did you get into it? Let's really get into the hard lessons you had to learn. But what ultimately it's becoming is a conduit to get people to sign up to become a Gigs member. So it's really, social media, if you do it well, if you have someone who's really smart in it. For me, I have Annabelle Wiedauer, incredible. She just graduated college last year and she's taken this on like no other, really talented at creating content, putting it out there, but then also producing this podcast. So if you get someone like an Annabelle, man, you're golden.
Shout out Annabelle. So a couple of things. I'm looking, I don't see my invite to your podcast. So there must be something wrong.
We'll get you on it.
We'll figure that one out. So I got to tell you something. You and I love it when I'm talking to somebody and their shared experience. So like you, not a big social media guy. I'm not a look at me guy. I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm private, but I wouldn't go as far as to say I'm like putting all my stuff out there. Right. So it's never been kind of really my bag. And a couple of years ago, our common contact, who I believe was a mentor of yours, yep, Landon Kordenbach, my CFO, he's the one that pushed me and said, Oz, a lot of the things you talk about internally for the company, like you got to put this out in the world. This is gold. This is good stuff. People want to hear this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, man. A couple things. One, if I make it about me, then when I turn around and I'm talking to my company and I'm telling us it's we, that seems a little bit disingenuous, right? And then the other thing is like, I don't really got the time for this. And like, It's not, I don't know it's going to have a big impact. It's just not really my style.
Yeah.
Well, he won. I started posting. I got to tell you, like, this is a really seminal moment. Like yesterday, I got a humongous opportunity cold where somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn where I do a lot of my posting, and humongous opportunity, and person, they felt like they knew me
Mm.
right away, where it was just like, it was like I'd been best friends with this person. They were almost selling for me in some different ways. And I realized, and I talked to the person after the fact, and they said, you're really passionate about what you do. You're a creator. I can see what you're building. You're trying to solve a real problem.
Mm.
I'm really excited. That's why I want to work with you. And I was like, well,
Wow.
I don't know how you knew me. It was really through a click on LinkedIn and starting and doing some of the research. And listen, one of the big things I think about social media,
Mm.
and I think you would agree with this, is authenticity.
I was
I
about
think
to
I
say
felt like it
that.
had to be, yeah, I felt like it had to be manufactured. And then I realized, no, you know what? I can actually just, like, I refuse to do engagement farming. I refuse to like say, do things that are hot takes and controversial just to drive it. But I also know that by doing it every day and being steady about it, there's so many different people that don't even like your stuff, or don't like actually like interact with you, right? But are lurking and learning, and these are the people that end up being your partners, your vendors,
Yes.
your customers. It's a lot of power. So listen, I'm a believer. I've been
Totally.
converted. I've been on this 2-year journey with it myself. I've seen the results of it. So
Wow.
if anybody takes anything away from this, all right, listen, I want to ask you about one other thing. You've successfully raised 600K from angels and are getting ready to do some crowdfunding.
Yep.
I'm someone that's on this journey right now, particularly on the software side. My services company, zero outside investment, all
Oh,
sweat
congrats.
equity and initial investment. So very unique and very different. Very proud of that. Very different ball game in the SaaS space. And so I got to, and I've said this to a couple, VCs and different people I've met. Not really at the point right now where I'm ready to ask for capital, but I actually kind of struggle a little bit with, because I feel like I'm good at making money. I don't know that I'm good about asking for money. So
Wow.
how do you get from someone buying into your vision and asking to contribute to your growth? Like, what tips do you have? And I'm honestly going to write stuff down now, because this is stuff that I need to get better at and learn.
That is super cool. No, and it's pretty crazy because I just talked to someone earlier today how I'm pretty good at sharing the vision of gigs to get people to invest. I actually am not as good at selling clients on a way smaller, ticket what they're buying into. I'm actually taking a lot of sales training right now with a sales consultant, because I'm not as good as being that challenger in sales and making the sale. I'm much better at sharing the vision. So I'm working on the other side that I really need to get better at. I put in $200,000 of my own money, investments, savings, everything into this to build this tech. And, because it's not a service right away, it's just a marketplace. We couldn't make money for a long time until we had enough people on both sides. Once we had enough people on the professional side, the people seeking jobs, then we could actually say, all right, there's enough quality here to ask these employers to start paying. There is enough quality and value that they should be paying. So finally, they started paying in June, and then we'll unleash kind of like a LinkedIn Premium, a Gigs Pro version for the professionals next year. But we couldn't start charging right off the bat, so I had to keep continually raising. I have 18 angel investors that are all strategic. Tour manager, production company, tech, label. So people that really understand the business and know that this is solving a problem and believe in it. But if I got 18 yeses, I've gotten it probably at least 150 no's. I've talked to a lot of different angels and some VCs, and it's been absolutely brutal. But I
Yeah.
can't,
Have you got any
yeah.
like really harsh feedback? Like,
Oof. Oh, yeah. It's tough talking to, at this stage where we are. Our value is at 6 million right now. When I'm talking to certain VCs, and they're like, man, if you're not saying that you're going to be worth 600 million to a billion, we just don't even want to talk to you. And I'm like, I understand that. They're like, but you can keep doing your fun little thing where maybe you can exit at 50 million, and like, just very demeaning. And I'm like, man, okay, we're in the early stages. Who knows if this is going to get up to $600 million, but I know where it is right now, and we're literally just in our pre-seed. So that's why I went the angel route, because I don't think VC's really where we should be right now. Um, and the no's stink, especially when you're courting people for months and months, and especially when someone, I've gotten oh yeah, we'll invest 250,000, send me all the stuff, let's do it, confirmed, verbal commitment, and then they ghost me. I mean, it's like the craziest. It's been a crazy journey. But everyone who's actually involved in gigs, I'm so proud of. I'm so excited about, and I'm having in 2 weeks actually a whole investor event where the investors, people are flying in for it, the advisory board, and then the whole team will get to kind of celebrate our success so far, meet each other, and really have a community within our own organization right now, even though we're still really early on. So I think unfortunately, it's just taking every single meeting and it is making that ask at the end of, all right, if you're not going to invest, can you please make a couple of introductions for me? And just selling the vision. I think you, luckily, since you're further along too, you're not the first founder trying to just sell your own soul to them. You have a successful business that you can say, hey, look what I've already done. Trust me to do this really well too.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is like I wonder because it's a different industry. And I guess there's some validity with that, but I wonder. I really do wonder when I get in front. There's a bunch of different things, right? Like multiple things going on. Usually, people want your direct focus. I've got different advantages, like because of the fact that I have this other business that's been helping build the software side of it, but there's also disadvantages. And so really it's going to come down to the right person, the right conversation, the right, the right partner, right? And so I'm excited about it. You gave some really good advice. I want to congratulate you on where you're at, and I want to congratulate you on where I know you're going. So major kudos to you. Thank you for getting to the detail and candor on that.
Finding the right talent for your team doesn't have to be a struggle. Meet Aon Hire, the world's first hiring experience management platform designed to transform the way you hire. Powered by AI, Aon Hire takes the hassle out of every step in the process. From smart resume analysis to customized interview questions, it saves you time, money, and effort. Plus, with real-time insights from every interview, you can quickly identify top candidates, reduce turnover, and stay on budget. And forget about note-taking, Aon Hire takes care of that for you. Ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Visit aonhire.com and get started today.
We're going to come back to music in a minute, but we got to talk hiring. And I want to make sure that I get some details from you because you're building a company, and I'm fascinated about founders who are trying to bring people into their vision, what they see, what they're looking for, what's important to them. So I want to start here. I want to know what your core hiring philosophy is for bringing somebody into gigs.
Yep. That is so good. That is such a great question. I actually just met with Joe Scarlett, who was the CEO of Tractor Supply Company for 25 years. And he gave me, I have it. Oh, it's right over here. It's this little card where on the front it says the values and on the back it says the mission. And he carries it around. He's been retired. He carries it around everywhere. And his two main pieces of advice. One was it's all about the personnel and who you hire. And he's going into all of the retail office. He had thousands of stores. He's going in, his executive leadership team is going in, they're talking to the employees there and the people and saying, how do you like working here? How are things doing? And if they're not happy, there's something wrong with management and we got to figure that out. I mean, they care so much, and that's how they have so much retention and great culture. So what I realized, is like, it was just me for so long, and anyone that is added into the company, like we have to start building the culture. And I think what was really hard for me, because I'm an extremely efficient person, I really don't like wasting time. It's a problem. I think that I need to fix. I had a great mentor he's an advisor, say, before you hire that accountant, before you hire that social media girl, before you hire whoever, just take them to coffee and don't even talk about the business. Just get to know them, get to know their family, get to know like who they are as a person. If you don't really vibe with them, bye-bye. Like the whole purpose of this is just how do you like them? Like, is this a good fit? And once you do like them, then you start talking about the company. I think because gigs is, our mission is to just open the door, because this is such a closed word of mouth industry. Gigs is hoping to open the door to way more people that otherwise would have never gotten the opportunity to get in because they didn't have those connections. Now they can make those connections. That is a huge part, like kind of policy of how we are as a team of, I want to take a chance on someone who just graduated college. Hey, start part-time. Let's see how it goes. She knocked it out of the park, and I kept giving her more and more responsibilities the more I trusted her. And then now she's producing the podcast. Anyone that starts with me so far, we go into a 90-day trial. And then we say at the end of 90 days, let's discuss pay, let's discuss equity, let's just see how everything went. And I've had a handful that haven't made it that 90 days. And thank God for it, for both of us. You know, it just wasn't a good fit. And yeah, that's probably my main.
I love it. Man, I hope Annabelle's parents listen to this podcast.
I know.
She's getting a lot of shout outs. She's killing it. Way to go, girl. All right, I want to ask you about memorable interview experiences. And it could be one that you've done for gigs, or it could be when you came to Nashville and you were interviewing with the different studios. Like, do you got a memorable interview experience when I ask you about that?
Oh, man. You know, the crazy thing about this industry is interviews are like, hey, I heard that you did this and that. And what was your time like on Eric Church or whatever? And here's what the job is. How do you feel about that? People in this industry kind of call you when someone recommends you. It's not totally an interview process, which is strange. But when I was staffing, you know, it's really just understanding what all they did, are they capable, and who are their references. I do have a story. This isn't actually totally an interview, but it was my first meeting when I moved to town 6 years ago. It was through a family friend. He was a banker at Pinnacle, and I just sat down and I was like, how do I get on the road? I want to get on the road. That's all I want to do. And he just was like, well, I don't know. You just need to know the right people. I left that meeting being like, man, that wasn't helpful at all. You know, he's not going to even introduce me to anyone, like, waste of time. Cut to, I finally get more gigs. I keep people updated on my progress. And he's just in my email list of, hey, I just got on the road with Eric Church. Hey, I just did this. Hey, I just did that. And so when I started gigs, I emailed him and said, hey, this is actually what I'm doing. Do you want to sit down? And he became an investor in gigs. And so you just never know when certain contexts will come back, or how you can help them, how they can help you. And so ultimately, like any interview is kind of like, okay, add that person to your contacts list. You never know where that's going to come down the road. And then especially in the live event industry, any gig you get is an interview. So if you are on set, if you're backstage, if you are working the event, every single person you're meeting is basically your interview for your next gig that you're going to get.
Ooh, I love that. You know what's interesting about what you said? So it's funny that we talk about the things that held us back, that we weren't 100% comfortable with, that ultimately, once we learn them, become such a game changer for us. I mean, I'm an extrovert. Let's be very clear about that. But in the company, and we were growing it, and I had two partners at the time, I was very insular in that, like, I almost didn't want to know what anybody else was doing. I wanted to really I was so obsessively focused on what we were doing, and I wanted to zig when they zagged. And I got to be honest, like, I almost like look back and it's like my friends were the people I work with, like in my family, and like I had like a no new friends policy. I was like very different than I am now.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I looked at the time as networking as a waste of time, right, and transactional, right? And then my mindset flipped, right? I don't know, about 5-6 years ago. And really the biggest thing that reframed it for me was that instead of going into meeting somebody, so now what I tell everybody all the time is introduce me to the most talented people you know. The thing that I respect the most is if you're good at what you do, right? So that could be a mother, that could be a waiter, that could be a janitor, that could be an entrepreneur, that could be a VP of supply chain, that could be anything. If you're really good at it and you enjoy it, I have so much I can take away from that. So my thought process started becoming, I want to meet everybody that's great at what they do or very talented, right? And I have zero agenda going in.
Yeah.
And because of that, I really just learn and I talk. And even if there's a thought like, oh, this person could be an investor, this person could come work for me, this person could be a customer, I actually put all that stuff out of my head and genuinely focus on the relationship. And then all that stuff comes as a byproduct of it. For example, this podcast, right? I've met guests in a lot of different ways. From it, I have somebody that sits on my advisory board. I have people that work with me. I have people that I hire to help runs the software side of the business. I have vendors. I have customers. I have just good friends. I have people that I would call if I go into their city. It's amazing. And I always went into all of it with the intent of just like, I want to get to know you and let's spend time together. And then you're right. I can't tell you how many different things have happened because of those relationships and being open to those relationships, where my complete mind frame has changed now, where it's like my job, my responsibility, my role is to be the face and to be out and to meeting great people that could change my company, change my life, and I can change their lives. And that mentality has really helped me going forward. So
I love that. And then the people that you do bring into your company too, you know, that this is something that I'm learning. I just hired. I'm onboarding 3 people right now, and it's. I'm so unbelievably excited. This time last year, I didn't have any employees. Like it's now we have a team of 3 full time, 2 part time, and um, I think that we probably could be further along in the onboarding process if we were spending less time hanging out. But it's really important. I just won these raffle tickets tonight to go see a Preds game, hockey game, and we're all. I'm not taking any of my friends. I'm taking the team. We're all going to go, and like all these times that we are just hanging, having lunch, taking more time to like get to know each other personally will ultimately make all of us more
So I want to
productive.
give you a bit of advice.
Yeah, please.
That's exactly what happened with me. My first employee still works here. My second employee still works here. My third employee still works here. I've had some of the greatest times on the road with them and doing things with them. I consider them great friends. My 2 partners at the time were both very close to me, right?
Wow.
But I was very insular because it
Yeah.
gets very easy. It's like these are the people I spend all my time with, and I go home and I work really hard and I spend time with my family. And so like I kind of close myself out from the external world. So what you're doing is very normal, very natural, and that's great. That means that you're going to do some amazing things together. But over time, think about I've got to also my responsibility is building the deeper relationships out there because that's what helps our company and our business. And I only say that
Yeah.
because that was the same thing for me. Like you'd ask me like, whose wedding are you going to? Oh, we work together. Whose birthday party are you going to? Oh, we work together. Where are you going out tonight? We're going to happy hour with the crew. It's like,
Yeah.
hey man, like you got to have a life outside of work, and not only for your own sanity, but also for your business and its success. So
That's good to
I
hear.
love that.
Thank you.
But we're going to a Preds game when I come to Nashville.
Hell yeah.
Just so we
Done.
can keep expanding your network.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. What about a favorite question? Do you have a favorite question you like to ask in an interview? One that really
Yeah.
gets to the soul of the person that you're going to work with, or somebody that you want to have at your company.
Man. Yeah, weirdly enough. I love the question. If you weren't doing this job, if you weren't doing this industry, if you were completely out of your current life, what you're doing, the path you're on, what would be the job that you really want? And for me, I would like to be like a safari guide. I want to like have a rescue for like big cats. Like I love animals. What am I doing with the tech company? But I think then okay, you learn about that about me. I really love animals. Maybe I'm empathetic. Maybe I like to. I don't know. And then you can be like, oh, why do you love animals? Well, it was really important to my family, and kind of getting into that. Whereas some people are saying, I can never imagine doing anything else. And then you're like, all right, they're exactly where they should be. I love that question.
Do you have a preference one way or another though? Because you just said that you'd
No.
be safari. I mean, you would have hired yourself though. You don't have a preference. It's interesting. I like to answer the questions that people say. So you answered it. I'm going to answer it.
Please.
And there's a story here too. My answer is like I'd love to be the general manager of an NBA team or an NFL team. And if you think about it, there's a lot of correlation in talent identification, right? And personnel and culture building and organizational building. But here's what happened. I am, to mildly put it, obsessed with sports. I love sports. I love my teams. I was in Green Bay last week to go watch my team get their butt kicked in Wisconsin with a group of friends. So I really follow my teams pretty passionately. And there was at one point where I wanted to be a sports agent. And I remember I was like in a college classroom or something, and they were asking like, how many of you want to be sports agents? And I literally look around and 80% of the room had raised their hand. I forget what class it was.
Man.
And I remember looking around and thinking, oh boy, this is super competitive. And like, there's some different things I have to do. And then of course the first thought was like, okay, I can do this. But then my next thought was like, well, you know what? I love sports. I'm passionate about sports. But does that have to be my vehicle for making the biggest and broadest impact I can have? And quite frankly, if you know me, you know this. I say this all the time. My dream is to buy my own professional sports team. And the reason why is I want to take my knowledge and ability to identify talent, to build something organizationally and culturally, to take what I believe in these truths I believe and put it to the ultimate test of ones and zeros, championships or not. Is what I believe really true or not? In business, it's a little bit subjective, right? But it's not in sports. And so for me, I ultimately want to own a team one day and run it my way and have the proof be in what the success is. Now, the funny thing about that is real tough to do that if you're a sports agent or even an NBA general manager. That's not the path for that. Usually you have to be super successful in some sort of external business to eventually come and do that.
To then
so,
buy it. Hey, that is the most perfect answer. That's
my path.
Yeah.
So like, listen, I'm going to get back to sports. I'm just going to go about it a different way. And it makes me really passionate about what I do. And I think there's a lot of synergy between those two things. So anyway, this is not my podcast. Well,
No,
it is
I
my
love
podcast,
hearing
but we're not
that.
interviewing me, but I just wanted to share that with you.
That's great. Oh, that is too cool. Yeah, it gets down to the greatest passions, and so cool that I know that you love sports now. You love, and what about that? And that you really believe that you can make a difference by picking the right people, and you can actually just get W's from that. I think that's
The funny thing is, like, I look at teams spending millions, if not billions of dollars to draft players, and they have a 50% hit rate. I look at VCs investing in 100 companies and maybe hitting it out of the park with one or two.
Yep.
I look at how companies hire people, and they probably have a 30 to 40 to 50% hit rate. To me, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's too much on the line in every single one of those scenarios, and we're just not looking at the inputs and the outputs the right way, in my opinion. And that is what I'm trying to solve in many different ways, through services and through software. And
Yes,
that's just who I am.
absolutely.
A little bit about me.
Yeah.
One more question on the hiring side. How do you give people an idea of what it's like to work at gigs? How do you create a candidate experience in the interview process that helps them understand what they'll be walking into?
Oh, yeah. This is a great example, actually. Most recently, before they even had their first day, these new people were onboarding. Before their first day, I brought them in to watch to Bridgestone Arena to watch a concert actually load in. What does that look like? We come in. I mean, ultimately, we should have been in there at like 8 or 9 a.m. to really see, the walk and chalk is the riggers load all the. Oh my gosh, I'm losing all of my terminology right now. They hang the motors, which then hold all of the lighting and audio and everything. We got in there when the stage was being built. We were with a team that was demonstrating pyro. So we got to see fire, we got to see confetti, and understanding how that hooks up in the whole grand scheme of what a tour is. They got to meet the people running the lighting. They got to see like where and why and how stagehands move around and the like pecking order of things. And so they were seeing firsthand what we're doing all this for the people that, we're talking to them and they're like, yeah, this is our last date of the tour. And we say, what are you going to do after? They're like, we don't know. Do you know of anything? And then, or the people who are the vendors who are supplying the lighting. And we're like, how did you hire the people to actually be on the tour? And they're like, oh man, it was tough. We had to like post on Facebook and we had to like call someone in locally. We had to fly someone here. Hearing the actual pain points on site, our full client on both sides of the marketplace. And then we're going to a Preds game tonight. So the whole goal, culture of gigs is also like, hey, we have a passion for live events. And
it's not all puppy dogs and lollipops. There's a lot to it. A lot of hard work and a lot of manual labor and a lot of complexity that comes with that. And so you better be ready, good and bad, for what this is. It's not all glitz and glamour.
100%. And, I think I changed the way I was hiring recently because I didn't make some of the best hires most recently. I'm
going to dig in there. I got to know, what was the theme there? What did you do wrong?
I didn't tell them that this was a startup. I didn't say, hey, this is a startup, by the way. This is very low funding. I am constantly going to be either speaking or meeting with people or on sales calls or trying to raise money. It is going to be all hands on deck. It is a startup. It's remote. We meet once a week, like as a team, all that good stuff. But are you willing to grow with us? Are you willing to put in the time right now? It's hard, but there is a great reward. That is what I left out because I think I was scared because I struggle in this role. I think startups are freaking hard, but there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of growth potential. And I have just found those people now that are like, no, we are, for example, I just hired this most amazing software engineer who comes from Amazon. He's done it all, large, small companies in every different kind of role. And he's just at a point where he's like, I am ready to take the risk to now. I've never created something on my own. He's like, I'm tired of the red tape. I want to create this. So he's taking on the risk of working with a startup, making less than what he could definitely be making at Amazon or, these large companies, knowing that, we'll be talking equity, knowing that he is in it to grow with us and make this something amazing to exit in hopefully less than 5 years is the goal. I now started selling it that way. I also stopped hiring like, will you please work for me? And now like, why should you work for me?
Smart. And a lot of times it's all about fit. That's for sure. Sometimes the fit 10 years ago for somebody in their career could be different, like you're talking about with this engineer. So that's a great call out by you. I want to get to some music stuff, but I want to ask a couple quick questions, kind of day in the life. Is there anything you're working on right now you're super pumped about, you're excited about?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Tell me.
So on the employer side, they can either post jobs or search the database to find people, connect with them, hire. Great. That is how, just marketplace. We're not staffing. We're not putting them together with people. But with this new amazing engineer, we're going to be getting AI involved and basically reading profiles to let the employer know, hey, these top 5 people out of the 200 applicants you just got are pretty dang good and like almost perfectly match your job post and your job description and what you're looking for, culture, experience wise, all that good stuff. So I'm really excited to incorporate AI to give the employers an even quicker turnaround in hiring. And there's a lot of really exciting stuff that we're going to be able to offer to the professionals soon. We're doing background checks so that employers can know, hey, can this person get into Canada or not before we hire them? That's a huge problem with the touring industry. So that for now, more to come.
Yeah, listen, you just walked right into my wheelhouse. That's certainly a part of what we build from our software perspective. We are, 2.5 years into this AI journey.
Great.
Resume and people matching is a big part of what we do. So If I can provide any help or advisement there, I am more than willing to talk to you about that. We can definitely do that.
Let's definitely set up a call. Thank you so much.
Here we go. We're going to go. You got a bunch of album covers in the background for people listening that can't see. You're obviously a big music fan. Yeah. So we're going to go music lightning round. Okay.
Let's do it.
First question. Rank the top 2 or 3 guitarists of all time, in your opinion.
Oh, goodness. That's really tough for me right now. Okay. I will say Paul Simon. I love just the way not all of his songs are in the 4/4 tempo. They're all just so different. I love his percussion specifically, but yeah, he's one of the best guitarists. So my dad played Spanish guitar. And so I grew up kind of loving that,
your
flamenco.
Dad?
Yeah. I play acoustic. I kind of play enough just to get by, but Jimmy Page. Oh man, one of my first
Robert
shows,
Plant, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton.
I'm trying to see one of my first shows. I'm looking at my
Slash.
wall. Yeah, I mean Roger Waters. Here we go. Let's see. Oh man, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. But it was one of my first shows I worked in Nashville. All right, it'll come to me later. Let's go to the next.
That's okay. We'll come back. This is lightning round. We got to keep cutting through. What about? I'm assuming you're unmarried, right?
Yes.
What song is playing at your wedding?
Oh my goodness!
Your first dance. I know. I said we're gonna go deep on music.
Well, that totally depends on your relationship. Whatever song hits your relationship.
You get to pick. Okay, you're the bride. The bridezilla gets to choose
goodness.
it. Do you have a top music the song that you envision in your head?
I actually for the first dance, no, that totally depends on relationship. But what we'll play with the dad-daughter dance is "Can't Help Falling in Love" by Elvis Presley.
Oh, great choice.
That's our
at
song.
My wedding, married, 4 kids.
What was it?
We played "What a Wonderful World" by Louis Armstrong.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wow.
It's giving me goosebumps just thinking about it. Okay, last one.
Wait, by the way, it was Paul Rogers. I can't believe I forgot that. Paul Rogers. Okay, move on.
If you could give your 20-year-old self any advice that you didn't know then but that you know now, what would it be, Nikki?
Oh, man. Just keep doing the hard thing, I think. If you keep choosing, and I've done that where I've kind of accepted the easier job and I have just been so complacent and bored and I really lacked a lot of confidence because I stopped believing that I could do hard things. Once I started, going to the gym at 5 a.m. and whenever you choose to do the harder thing, you become way more proud of yourself and your confidence increases. And if you keep doing that, the people you meet, that's totally it.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. The way that I would wrap that is I would say easy now, hard later, hard now, easy later.
There it is. Oh, I can't wait for my easy later. I'll tell you what.
Yes. Oh, you and me both. Nikki, you're really good at this. It makes sense that you have your own podcast because you are a great conversator. I really enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you coming on and spending a little bit of time with me. Anything that you want to plug, if people want to find out about gigs, if they want to be going to working on tours, how do they find it?
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Yes, www.gigs.live, and sign up as a professional to actually start working these gigs, or sign up as an employer to start posting these gigs. Again, we have a database of over 16,500 people in there right now, 700 companies, of which it's Live Nation, Red Light Management, Claire Global, PRG, Atlantic Records, some of the largest in the world already. And we're only 6 months old. So I'm excited for where this is going to go. You can find us on Instagram at gigs.live, TikTok, YouTube, and you can follow me at Nikki Sanz on Instagram, LinkedIn, all those good things.
So one thing I want to just clarify is gigs, Giggs, not just Gigs.
That's it,
Giggs. Sanz is SANZ.
Correct.
For people looking it up.
And we officially
Nikki?
own the trademark as of last month. It's been 2 years of waiting. We own the trademark of Gigs now.
Congratulations. You are a dynamo. Your success is no surprise, and the best is yet to come. I appreciate you coming on.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Thanks,
at a
Nikki.
Preds game.
All right. Bye.
Bye.